What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hutch Coming in Clutch. I'm your host, Hutchison Brown, and today we've got a fantastic show. I'm going to be talking about the biggest discrepancies in my rankings compared to the consensus. That's why it's called Hutch Explain Yourself. I'm explaining why my rankings are so different from the consensus on certain players. Now, if you want to find my fantasy football rankings, you can go to footballguys.com/rankings. And when you go there, you'll see a little tool where you can pick which expert you want. And we have amazing experts over there at Football Guys that are really good at what they do. But if you want mine, you click on my name, and then obviously my rankings will pop up. So if you want to go to my rankings, footballguys.com/rankings, click me as the analyst you want to see. And then you'll be able to access all of my fantasy football rankings for this season: quarterback, running back, receivers, tight ends, and overall. It'll put Superflex and non-Superflex in there. You can do whatever you like with it. And without further ado, let's get into the podcast today. Before I get into it, follow me on Twitter at HutchisonB_FF. Follow me on Blue Sky over there as well. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening so you'll be notified every single time a new episode does drop. And if you have a Football Guy subscription, go check out my recent articles over there. I just finished my early success series. Now, we did this on the podcast over the summer, but I did it in article form on footballguys.com, and it was a great series. I really like what I added to it in article form from the podcast. So make sure you go check that out over at footballguys.com on the articles page. Now, without further ado, let's get into the podcast today. We're going to start with the quarterback position. There's one quarterback I really want to talk about that I have a huge differentiation in with my rankings compared to consensus. That is Bryce Young. I talked about it a lot this summer. He's my QB 13, and consensus has him ranked at QB 22. I really like Bryce Young for fantasy this year for multiple reasons. Number one, we saw the production last year. He made some really special plays last year. There were some plays that you see on film that truly blew your mind, that were like, okay, this kid's special. He looked like Alabama Bryce Young all over again. We really saw why he was number one overall pick in sparse moments in that second half. But overall, he played really well. He unlocked the running game too, averaging over 20 rushing yards per game. He looked really competent as a passer, making all the easy throws, making some special throws, and just really challenging the defense against him. And then when you look at fantasy football points from week 12 by week onward for the Panthers, he was a top 8 level points per game quarterback. When you look at all the quarterbacks this year in points per game among players who played 6 games, Bryce Young would have ranked top 8 this year when you look at that stretch of games for him in that second half. He was really, really good last year for fantasy football in that second half. He had some monstrous explosive games, especially that one against Atlanta in week 18. He scored 36.5 points in most scoring formats. That game went explosive. That game went bonkers, and he was all up for the test, and he showed out in that performance. Now, looking at the new weapons this year, you have Ted McMillan. That's a huge upgrade at wide receiver 1, 10th overall pick for the draft this year. Then you have Jalen Cokerich, Tavian Sanders, 2 rookies who flashed early in year 1, looking to make a big step forward in year 2. You still have Adam Thielen, who was dependable last year. Xavier Legette could take a step forward this year. We'll see. Hunter Renfrow is an interesting add. I know he hasn't done anything in the NFL for a couple of years, but it's been very injury related. Last time we saw him fully healthy on the football field was with Vegas, where he was a top 15 receiver in fantasy. Like, this dude could legit still be a good producer. And there's been some buzz from him out of camp as well. So the weapons are looking exciting this year. We have the year 2 Dave Canales, and Bryce Young's ready to take another step forward after a spark flashed last season. So I'm really, really hyped for Bryce Young. If I completely tank quarterback, if I'm just not liking the values I'm getting at quarterback, I'm happy to take Bryce Young with one of the last picks on my draft. Like, I'm totally happy to do that. And as a QB2 and a super flex, absolutely monstrous value. Get all the Bryce Young you can this year and thank me later. Now, let's talk about Travion Henderson at the running back position. Consensus has him at RB26. I've got him another number 13. I've got him at RB13. He's an elite explosive talent, jaw-dropping kind of plays. He is so explosive with the football in his hands. He's so fun to watch. I mean, I try not to make a direct comp because Jahmyr Gibbs was drafted very much higher than him, but he very much reminds me of Jahmyr Gibbs when he was coming out of Alabama. The dude is just so explosive. He's a monster, and he's smaller at just over 200 pounds, but he's physical enough to make those plays and push the pile forward and barrel people and be really good in pass pro if he has to. He's an elite pass protector and an elite pass catcher. He will instantly be better than Stevenson in that range of the game. He's immediately going to earn the third down role. Like, that's not even a decision. That's going to be very, very quickly earned. We've seen it already in camp. Now it's about the rushing work. How much rushing work will Steven be able to hold on to? I don't think he's going to hold on to very much for very long. We already saw last year, even with a big contract to his name, Stevenson got benched for Antonio Gibson after a fumbling issue. Like the Patriots coaching staff has shown that they are not very excited about where Stevenson's at right now. And it shows it even more that they drafted Trevon Henderson because you have a bit of a rebuild roster here. We have a lot of holes on defense, a lot of holes on offensive line. You need some receiving help. And the second round, they go for a running back, even though they have Stevenson, who's a very capable running back under contract. It just shows how much they do not believe in him in any way. So you got to think that Trayvon Henderson, maybe in the first half, he's a little slow and he's still working in with Ramondre. But by the second half, at bare minimum, this guy is going to be the clear lead of this backfield. I'm expecting in the back half for him to be a clear-cut RB1, which is why I have him ranked at RB13. And now looking at Josh McDaniels and his history with running backs, he has been an offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots in 16 seasons. This is going to be number 17 for him. Congratulations on a long NFL career, Josh McDaniels. But looking at that career, looking at all 16 of those seasons, in 11 of those seasons, a running back on the roster has hit 55 plus targets. That's great for fantasy football purposes. I mean, we had the James White years, and we've had many other running backs hit that mark for the Patriots over the last, decade or so. Henderson is next, man. Henderson is going to be one of those guys that just eats in the receiving game, and Josh McDaniels is all about that for his running backs. Now let's look at Isaiah Pacheco. This is a player I don't think I've talked about enough this offseason. I haven't talked about enough about for my love for him. I have him ranked at RB20. Consensus has him ranked at RB28. Now, looking at last year, I get it. It was a 2-game sample size. I get it. But a lot was revealed in this small sample size. A lot of questions heading to that season were, is Pacheco going to take the full workload? The season prior in 2023, he was at kind of a committee splitting a lot of work, but it seemed like in 2024, we were to see an upgrade from him. And we really saw it. It was about a 73% snap share, and he was on pace for 1,147 rushing yards, 459 receiving yards, and nearly 10 total touchdowns, averaging 15.95 PPR points per game. That would have been RB14 in points per game last year among players who played at least 6 games. And then 2023, you look back, he was a top 15 fantasy running back in PPR. He's good in the receiving game. He's great as a rusher. He's physical. He's violent. And he's just a fun player to have on your fantasy team and a fun player to watch. And the Chiefs very clearly love him. I think last year was just such a mess with that foot injury. Not only did it keep him out so very long, and the Chiefs running back room just ended up being a mess, but he came back too early. Pacheco's one of those guys where he's got that aggressive mindset to him where he's willing to fight through injuries, willing to battle. I think he bit off way more than he could chew here. You could clearly see on the field that he wasn't fully healthy. He wasn't the full healthy Isaiah Pacheco. But now when you look at next year, a full offseason to recover from that foot injury, the timeline lines up that he should be fully healthy this year, 100% ready to go. And he should be ready to take on that workload. I mean, who else is going to take it? It's Kareem Hunt, and that's really it. Like, you're not going to give significant touches to wash Kareem Hunt unless you desperately have to because Isaiah Pacheco is unhealthy. If you're getting an healthy Isaiah Pacheco, he's going to be the guy, and he's probably a lock to finish as a top 20 running back this year. I think RB20 is a pretty safe ranking as long as he's healthy. RB28 at consensus rankings and his current ADP of around RB26, I think he's absolutely ludicrous. Now let's look at Kyren Williams. We've been positive for the first 3 rankings here, but now I'm going to finally get to one that I'm lower on the consensus is Kyren Williams. I have him ranked at RB17. Most consensus rankings have him ranked at RB11. And I'm just lower on him because I'm really concerned about his efficiency. When you look among 70 running backs with 50-plus rush attempts last season, this is where Kyren ranked. 3rd in attempts, but he was 10th in missed tackles forced, so inefficient there. 46th in yards after contact per attempt. Outside the top 30 in rushing yards over expected, 62nd in breakaway run rate, lower than Najee Harris, and 53rd in PFF elusive rating. The dude is just not good with the football in his hands. He doesn't create missed tackles. He doesn't create much yards after contact, and he's not a guy that's going to get explosive runs. His longest rush last year was 30 yards, and he's also not really great as a receiver. He can do well in pass pro, but the Rams threw the football to the running back the 32nd highest rate in the league last year. Kyren Williams hasn't caught the ball 35 times in his career ever. He hasn't caught that in a single season. Now, I just don't know what to do with that. You look at the numbers and you watch him play, it's clear. He's an average at best running back. He's not that good at football. The problem is the Rams have had nobody else and they've been forced to give him the football. Blake Corum was still progressing as a rookie last year. We saw him start to get better towards the end of the season, but they continued to give him the ball to Kyron, even though he fumbled. Oh, yeah, forgot that. He fumbles at the highest rate in the league since 2023. The dude's just not good. You look at Blake Corum, you look at Jarquez Hunter, these are real prospects that have serious talent and upside. And I think that if Kyron continues to struggle the way he did last year, the Rams are going to be forced to have no choice and put someone else on the field. I just can't continue to bet on a guy that is completely carried by touchdowns and volume at his cost in drafts. He's going as an RB1, and I just can't handle it. I don't care that we have the contract because you look at Ramondre Stevenson's contract, look what they just did to him. I mean, they basically just replaced him with Travion Henderson 2 years into this deal. Miles Sanders got a massive deal with Carolina, and they immediately replaced him because you know why? Because he sucked. Now you have Kyron Williams. If he plays poorly again next year, there's no reason the Rams won't replace him. They replaced so many of the running backs in their career. Sean McVay has been very willing to replace Todd Gurley. He was very willing to replace Cam Akers. If Kyron Williams sucks again this year, he's very, very, very going to be willing to replace him. And that's really hard for me to swallow in fantasy football as my RB1. I don't want to take him as my RB1 there. You're betting on volume. You're betting on elite touchdown production. And given that Matthew Stafford has a ridiculous injury right now that is really shady, that's hard to bet on. So I'm just out on Kyron Williams. His talent, his efficiency, the fact that Matthew Stafford's hurt, and the fact that the contract just doesn't simply doesn't matter if he's not good. It all points to the facts that you have to be out on Kyron Williams as RB1 cost. Now, let's look at Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams. I'm learning I'm out on the Rams this year, man. I have Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams ranked at wide receiver 11 and wide receiver 19, and consensus has them ranked at wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 15. I'm going to make this one short and sweet. This is not a talent thing. This is not oh, they're going to eat into each other thing. This is simply a Matthew Stafford problem. The reports out of camp are really, really shitty about Matthew Stafford. The coaching staff has been very reluctant to talk about him in defined matter. And it's been really hard to really get through the injury and see what is actually happening with Matthew Stafford. At his age range, considering that he's coming off a couple down years in terms of touchdown and overall production, it's really hard to say, yep, fully confident Matthew Stafford, he's going to play 17 games in 2025. I can't say that with confidence. And if it's Jimmy Garoppolo playing football, I get Jimmy Garoppolo is someone that can run a system pretty well, and with Sean McVay, it could be okay. It's not going to be Matthew Stafford level. It's not going to be what we want for fantasy football. So Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams just have to be bumped down a little bit. And I think considering the competition at wide receiver, considering how good wide receivers are right now in the league and for fantasy football, wide receiver 11, wide receiver 19 is very reasonable to put them if Matthew Stafford were to miss a handful of games this year. So I'm having a hard time with these two, man, in drafts. I think they're just people are ignoring the Matthew Stafford injury because he's been a Superman forever. But he can't be a Superman forever. He's getting to that point of age where it's just like you got to be worried about this one, man. This is an injury you have to be worried about. So another wide receiver, this is one I'm actually high on compared to consensus. That is Emeka Egbuka. I feel like I'm not going to be high on him when consensus finally catches up, but I have him ranked in my wide receiver 33 right now, and consensus is still at wide receiver 45 with Egbuka. Look here, let's just break down this receiving core for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now. Mike Evans, he's our wide receiver 1 in Tampa Bay. He's very good at football. He's good, but he's at like 31, 32 years old. That age cliff concern is definitely there. Chris Godwin, he's on PUP. He's hurt. He is not ready for week 1 per most reports, and it is not 100% that he's going to play week 1. So that's really concerning. And even if he does play week 1, the timeline lines up to the point where he's not going to be 100%. And you look at Jalen Mills and Cade Otton, they're fine. They're good. They're not great. I would project Emeka Egbuka to be a better player than both of them as a receiver, but they're fine. So let's look at this. Let's say Chris Godwin magically gets fully healthy. You're looking at Emeka Egbuka as the automatic wide receiver 3 on a pass-happy offense with Baker Mayfield at quarterback. There's going to be fantasy relevance there no matter what. But now with Chris Godwin's injury, the slot role is wide open. Because if Chris Godwin were to miss games or not be 100%, they're going to move Emeka Egbuka more into this offense and give him volume so they can rest Chris Godwin. That's going to be huge for fantasy football. If you got the wide receiver 2 in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is a very dependable, safe target absorber like Emeka Egbuka is, that's going to be really good for fantasy. That's probably going to be better than wide receiver 33. I have wide receiver 33 personally because 1, he's a rookie, and 2, you have some variability with Chris Godwin. But overall, he could be a top 20 wide receiver this year if he truly is healthy and he truly is that guy, and if he is overtaking Godwin for that wide receiver 2 role early in the season. Because I'm telling you this, a first-round rookie wide receiver, you see them flashing early, you don't stop giving them football. It's that simple. So Mecca Buga has a huge opportunity early, and if he's able to take advantage of it, the rest of the season could look really good for him. Right now, he's still going in that 8th round range. That is an absolute smash. I love Mecca Buga in that range. Keep picking him up, man. Now let's talk about a player I'm lower on, Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is a really, really tough one for me. Consensus has him at wide receiver 14. I have him at wide receiver 24. You look at the GPS overall speeds last year, his highest speeds was very low compared to last year. Yards after catch with the lowest of his career at 3.5 yards after catch per reception. You've got an age concern with 30 plus. And over the offseason, it seems like he's been on a lot of live streams, a lot of partying, a lot of hanging out. And I'm not trying to say like he's lazy, but it seems like he's been a little distracted this offseason. There's been a lot of drama as well between him and Miami. It just overall has not been a good offseason for him. And coming off a really down year, it's really hard to want to fully buy into him as nearly a wide receiver 1. I have him ranked as a low wide receiver 2, and considering the age risk, considering the bottoming out risk you have with him, I think is very appropriate because looking at who he is as a player, I'm not saying he's all speed because he's got plenty of other attributes, but speed is his biggest thing. That's his biggest threat. You don't have Tyreek Hill if you don't have Tyreek Hill's speed along with him. And the first thing that wide receivers lose, you see it in their careers, is speed. You see speed and athleticism and that explosive quick twitch ability go first. That's why I see the technicians like Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, these guys play into their 30s really high level because all they rely on is their footwork, that route running ability, that football IQ. Tyreek Hill is about his speed. And if he loses that, he's not going to be the same player. And he's probably going to dip in fantasy ranks, especially if Jalen Waddle gets healthier this year. You have still have Devon Achane in this offense, ready to take a load of receiving work. They added Darren Waller, who could be effective this year, who could do something this year for this team. I have a hard time in Tyreek Hill as ADP of wide receiver 14. I feel like you're just fully betting on him to be himself again, be that guy, and be like a top 10 wide receiver fantasy. You're almost doing that. And I just have a hard time with that. Now let's look at Jameson Williams. Wide receiver 17 in my ranks. Consensus has him at wide receiver 27. I've made my case clear with Jameson Williams, but let me address it again. Jameson Williams has all the physical tools. He's fast. He's explosive. He can make plays downfield. He's got the speed. Like he's got physical tools that Amon-Ra St. Brown simply doesn't have. Over the last couple of years, he's been really limited by injuries, by suspensions, and it's really hindered his ability to develop the mental tools that Amon-Ra St. Brown has. His ability to know where he needs to be with the football, his route running ability, his footwork, and his ability to know exactly where he needs to be at all times. Jameson Williams, we saw that start to develop in the second half of the season. Jameson Williams' route tree expanded extensively. He was running all types of routes on the field from all different positions in the field, including the slot, outside, and even in the backfield. He was getting touches all over the field, including screen passes, short passes, deep passes. He was working all over the place. You saw him truly start to develop into, quote unquote, a wide receiver 1. He isn't the wide receiver 1 because Amon-Ra St. Brown is there, but a wide receiver 1, a player that can maintain a wide receiver 1 role in an NFL offense. But you have to consider the fact that if Jameson Williams truly develops into the player that he was meant to be coming out of college with the speed and the physical tools he had, he could overall become a better player than St. Brown was and St. Brown is today. It's just that simple. The ceiling with Jameson Williams, because of that speed and those physical tools that he has, is higher than what St. Brown's is. That's no offense to St. Brown. He's a fantastic player. But Jameson Williams could legit lead the team in the receiving yards this year, and I feel like people don't talk about that enough. So Jameson Williams, wide receiver 17 for me. Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver 11. There's a lot less of a gap between those two players than people like to talk about. Now, we're going to the tight end position to wrap it up with 2 players here. We're going to start with Tucker Kraft. I have him ranked as my tight end 4. After Kittle, McBride, and Bowers, there's no other tight end I want more in fantasy football than Tucker freaking Kraft. Consensus has him ranked at tight end 11. Besides Marvin Mims, among all receivers, tight ends and wide receivers, among all players with 45 targets, he was the leader in yards after catch per reception besides Marvin Mims. And it was a monstrous lead too. Like it was Marvin Mims, Tucker Kraft, and then the next player. Tucker Kraft was a monstrous player last year when he had the football in his hands. His film, when you watch it, is filled with jumps, hurdles, stiff arms, bulldozes. The dude runs like George Kittle. He really has those shades of George Kittle in his game, where he's so aggressive and so fast with the football in his hands that he's just a monster and a really hard player to bring down once he has the ball. You saw Tucker Kraft get involved in that short screen receiving game where you get the ball quick and you just let him go. You get him in space and you just let him go. And when looking at the Green Bay Packers receiving room this year, I like that they have a lot of talent, but none of them command a wide receiver one target share. Jayden Reed is simply not a commander of an offense. He can work as a slot, be a part-time player, work deep, and that's great. He's awesome at that. But he's not a player, at least what we've seen for 2 years so far. He hasn't been a player that's truly commanded a true wide receiver one role. Romeo Doubs is a complimentary player. Dotavian Wicks is a complimentary player. Matthew Golden, even with an ambiguous wide receiver room in Texas, he could not be the wide receiver one on that team. He disappeared so often. He was below Isaiah Bond in targets. He couldn't elevate his game to the next level to the point where he dominated in a target share. He just couldn't do it, and I simply don't see him doing it at the NFL level. I see him being a great complement piece, a great wide receiver 2 kind of piece. But that's just not what the Packers need. Tucker Kraft is a player. He has a big physical build. He has yards to catch ability. And we saw last year how much volume he could absorb on a weekly basis. I see him as a player that could legit lead this team in targets this year. If he truly takes that next step, he could become a George Kittle-like tight end where it's like he's simply a great blocker, great receiver, great overall asset, and you can build your offense around him if you really want to. San Francisco hasn't been able to do that very much because they have so many other weapons. But if George Kittle were to be the clear-cut number one target on their team, he would be able to handle that very, very well. And I could absolutely see that being Tucker Kraft if he truly takes another step this year, which I totally see as a potential. We saw the second-year breakout. We saw the flashes. We saw the opportunity come his way. And now we're looking at year 3 thinking, man, this kid could have a huge monsters breakout. So I'm looking at Tucker Kraft as a guy that could absolutely be there. He's my ranked in my tight end 4. I have him ranked pretty aggressively just because after the big 3, I don't see anybody else that I'm super excited about but Tucker Kraft. And now, last player we're talking about is Jatavian Sanders, tight end of the Carolina Panthers. He was a really fun player to watch play football last year. He was top 10 in yards per catch among tight ends last season. You saw some big plays downfield, some big plays with the football in his hands. He looks like a very, very juiced up version of Hunter Henry, where he's a little taller, a little bigger, and he's just faster. He's faster and he's more explosive with the football in his hands. He's a tight end that you just want to get the football to him and let him see what he can do. Make plays over defenders, make plays around defenders, run with the football in his hands. He can really do it all at the tight end position. And he was a great blocker last year as well when he got that opportunity. And looking at the offense this year, what we could see, obviously you got Ted McMillan to wide receiver 1. And then you have Jalen Coker and Jatavian Sanders. Jalen Coker was an undrafted free agent that flashed in his rookie year, has made some good plays in camp. But then you have Jatavian Sanders, a very valuable tight end who was very good last year when given the opportunity and could take a step forward in year 2. The wide receiver 2 role for the Carolina Panthers is wide open for either of those two players. If Jatavian Sanders were to earn the number 2 role in a Bryce Young-led offense, that could be huge for fantasy football. He's currently being ranked as the tight end 33. I have him ranked at tight end 17. I just think he's a great value right now in drafts as a sleeper. If you're looking for a dart throw of a second tight end, or if your draft or if your league starts 2 tight ends, he's someone that I'm happy to take as a second tight end. Now, without further ado, that's going to be it for the podcast today. It's going to be all for a Hutch coming in clutch. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Greatly, greatly appreciate y'all being here. If you like that podcast today, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening. Make sure you leave a review on either Apple or Spotify wherever you're listening. I'd greatly appreciate that. So you'll be notified every single time a new episode does drop. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky at HutchinsonB_FF. And one last thing before I go. The Fantasy Football Expo was this past weekend. And for those that I saw there, those that I met there, those that I was able to spend time with, and even those who didn't go, I just want to thank you all. It was a great Expo weekend, a fantastic time. Loved engaging with everybody there. Love seeing you all. And I cannot wait again for next year when we can get together again. It's going to be July 4th through July 26th, or July 24th through July 26th next year. So if you didn't make it last year, or if you did make it last year and want to make it again, save those dates. It's a heck of an event. Bob Lugg, the director, is looking to make it bigger and bigger. I was talking to him personally over the weekend. He's looking to make it really big. So really excited to see what he does with it over the next couple of years. So that's going to be all for Hutch Coming in Clutch today. Thank you all again so much for tuning in. We will see you all next week.